Hello, ladies, gentlemen, they folk. Welcome back. Murdius Maximus here. Today we have more God of War gameplay for you. This time it is the infamous tower climb in hell, the cliff climb, the spinny tubes of death, whatever you want to call it. Uh, God of War, when it came out, was known for being kind of a difficult game. Um, I'd said talked in the last video about how Devil May Cry had kind of come out, and that was kind of the only other really game that was kind of out there, and I don't recall it being really all that heavy on puzzles. So when God of War came out, and it was like this really thick, chunky combat experience that like you got in that first level. Eventually the game takes you where it does, and suddenly you've got puzzles, and they're environmental puzzles. um this game was so well designed. Everything had a point, everything had a place. I loved the Temple of Pandora. The way that just twisted and turned into itself and literally became, there's very few times that like a dungeon in a game becomes anything more than a dungeon. I mean, I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but like in a dungeon, you're just in the dungeon and you're doing the thing. Like the Temple of Pandora was like this menacing thing that was like, it was clever and you were following a tale of madness and everything. Like, but the puzzles that were in it were a huge difference in gameplay, but they balanced it out really well. Um, there are so many different puzzles that stand out. It's not really the puzzle, they're challenges. I guess you could call them more challenges, tests of dexterity, whatever. And there are a lot of them. This game has some of the most iconic deadly traps, I think, for me as a gamer, kind of come from God of War and the Temple of Pandora, and subsequently, hell here. Um, they just stand out to me. There's not, I played Legend of Zelda many, many, many times, but nothing ever stood out to me in those puzzles that they had. Nothing stood out to me like they had in God of War. It was again, the God of War came out and nobody was doing this. At least if they were, I don't recall of anyone doing it. So please don't take that as fact. But in my world of games, which was fairly robust at the time, nobody was doing this. So a lot of these challenges were really shocking for a lot of people that were coming over from like Devil May Cry. And that was even like, for me, it was kind of a bit of a culture shock, right? At first I was like, oh, so you got to do some of these puzzles. Um, Challenges. I remember getting through the Temple of Pandora and being blown away at how, like, oh my God, so that all links up, and all this was just to do this. You did all of this stuff, all so that you could end up with the box in the main room that you started in, and all of the challenges that you did throughout the whole temple were just to do this one thing. And I don't, if you haven't played it, I'm not going to spoil it all the way. It's like a 20-year-old game. You really should go play it. It really, if you're a God of War 2018 fan or a God of War Ragnarok fan, you really should go back, because these games, the story was kind of cool. It didn't, I mean, we were millennial gamers. Story was kind of weird for us. It mattered where it mattered, and it didn't matter where it didn't matter. It kind of mattered here, but God of War was all about that crispy gameplay. It had fun, engaging play patterns, and this was back when games were only about 9 hours long. I think you can clear God of War in like 9 hours. I think that's about what it would take for me to clear it. I'd have to go back and look at some of my old saves, and that would require me to dig out old consoles, and I'm like, ugh. So I mean, I feel like you got 9 hours out of the first God of War game, so they really had to make these things count. They had to be, you know, you look at games like Assassin's Creed, which in its own right I'm a big fan of as well. Assassin's Creed is all about content, 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 content. And after a while, some of it starts to feel pretty meaningless. And you get lost in just going in the map and finding this collectible and fighting these and guys and doing these things. Grand Theft Auto is another game, engaging, but you know, there's just so much of it that, like, you know, you get to the end of the story and you're like, okay, what else? And God of War, in that 9 hours, packed a whole lot of fun. There's a whole lot of fun. Everything was meaningful, impactful. Every part of the game was part of an overall vision. I mean, they built worlds with barely trying to build worlds. It was all about the gameplay and the environment, and they let that do a lot of the storytelling. Because honestly, hats off to everybody involved. I mean, Kratos is kind of a boring character. He's just big mad, and they still managed to make that story matter. This kind of falls apart in God of War 2. But you know, the way God of War ends, you kind of understand why. But like, there was still enough of an emotion there of this man that was so broken. You know, he'd given up his family to go be a war hero, and then he was going to lose it all in 1 minute, and he's like, I don't want to die, only to just become such a monster that you kill your own family. I mean, this is a very compelling reason to drive a man to do all of the things that he did. And you know, that's the story. Okay. But I feel, like I said, the environmental storytelling, the puzzles, it wasn't just the combat, it was these trials that like no mortal reasonable person would be able to do. I mean, it's a video game, we all get it, but like, you're immersed in that story. These towers, this was the culmination of climbing out of hell, and these towers really were just kind of the cherry on top of like how absolutely effing miserable can we make life for Kratos before he finally gets to his absolution. This part, our last video was kind of finishing off Ares, right? You know, this one is getting up to that point. We're climbing up out of hell. And even the way they did that was really good. You know, by the end of the video, you'll see we've got the guy that was digging a hole at the beginning of the game. You ran by him and he's just digging a hole, and you're like, what the fuck are you doing, man? All tied together so well. This puzzle, man, this one right here, we can talk about pushing the guy in the cage up the ramp. We can talk about walking the spinny spinny blades of death atop the razor thin catwalks. You know, we can talk about all the room where you had to push the block around before the floor came up to kill you. These were all significant challenges. The roller wheels in the last part of the Temple of Pandora, these were all worthy challenges, and you're like, wow. But this is the one. This whole video, this whole last end part here, really was kind of the nightmare climb, because you had to be patient. You had to use everything that you'd done before, and it had to be this perfect climb. I loved that this game did that, and I don't see a lot of games that are really doing that anymore. And what made God of War 2018 special is that the story mattered a whole lot more. That Santa Monica took that story of this angry man and made it matter a whole lot more. But that's a different video for a different day. I just absolutely, every time I play God of War, I am just continually blown away. It still holds up today. It is still good. The controls are snappy. The challenges are fair. The combat is good. The puzzle, like, everything fits together. God of War stands the test of time as one of my favorite games. And, if you're watching this video and you have PlayStation premium, or perhaps you have the old God of War games, I think you should boot it in, boot it up, play it, see, relive some of that. It's 9 hours. You can put an hour into it here and there. It's save point to save point. Um, Going back and replaying it, even for just part of these videos, the next one coming up, we have some God of War 2. We're actually into God of War 2 now. I've just started replaying all these games at night, so I'm really excited to show you some of that. God of War, man, what a game. Changed a lot. It changed a lot. Can't say enough good things about it. Um, Thank you for watching. I know your time is valuable to you, and I really appreciate that you spent 10 minutes with me here rambling on about a 20-year-old game. If you like what you saw, please like and subscribe, and keep a lookout for our next video. We got some God of War 2 content coming.